Erica here, and I'm back with kind of just another chatty discussion video. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about how my reading tastes and my approach to reading have changed over the past year in this terrible year of 2016, and kind of what that means for me going forward, and just really reflect on what's been going on with me this year. So in my reading life, and also in my life in general, I'm learning as I get older that I'm really developing this kind of like don't give a fuck attitude. And I mean that in a way that I am learning to kind of embrace what I want and what I enjoy and not worry about what other people say I should be doing or how other people feel about what I'm doing. And I mean, this is all in good, like, moral conscience. I'm not going out and stabbing people because I don't give a fuck, but you know what I mean. So, like I said, that's my reading life as well as just my approach to life in general right now, and I have found that that really came out in my reading in 2016, where I kind of took a step back and learned that it's okay to enjoy things that might not be considered literary or classics or might not have been embraced by scholars and things of that nature. And I think that that's something that everyone really goes through at some point in their reading life, and you kind of let the pressure of having to read all of those giant Dostoevsky tomes go and read things when you want and read what you want. So that's definitely the biggest shift that I've seen in my reading this year. With that came a lot of change in my kind of approach to genre fiction and the amount of genre fiction that I've been reading. And I say genre fiction in general because, yes, it is a general thing, but mainly for me, it's been science fiction and fantasy this year. So last year, I kind of got back into adult science fiction and fantasy for the first time since I was much younger. And this past year, I've really embraced that, and I've really enjoyed reading a lot of SFF and kind of getting into these worlds and embracing the escapist element of science fiction and fantasy novels. So I'm looking forward to continuing on with that and seeing where SFF takes me in 2017. On top of science and fiction and fantasy, though, I have been reading a little bit more historical fiction, which is a genre I kind of previously shunned a little bit, mostly because I'm just not a very big history person in general, and also because I always assumed it was kind of like tropey and cliche, but that's not the case at all. So I've really enjoyed reading a little bit more historical fiction, not to the degree that I'm reading more SFF, but a little bit. And then there are some other things that I really am developing a love for and appreciation for, one of them being nonfiction. I've definitely read a lot more nonfiction this year than I have in years past. That is probably due to audiobooks. I really like consuming nonfiction via audiobook. And poetry. I'm kind of falling back in love with poetry for the first time since I was a teenager, and I'm exploring a lot of new poets. And I mean, with poetry, I don't even necessarily look to, when I'm in a bookshop per se, identify with a title or an author's name or have it be something I've read before. I love that I can go to a poetry section and pick up a book that might speak to me for one reason or the other and read a couple of poems from it right then and there and then decide whether or not I want it. So I've definitely gotten way more into poetry this year, and nonfiction, which has been great. So that all being said, my reading is now like this amalgamation of so many different genres, and I love it. I basically have something on my shelves unread for any mood that strikes me at this point in time. If I need a fantasy book, I need a fantasy book. If I want to read Dickens, I can still read Dickens. So I've just overall found that I'm not kind of pigeonholing myself and saying that for myself and for this channel as well, like, oh, I'm a literary fiction reader, which is kind of how this channel began, but I'm being able to expand that, and I appreciate you guys letting me do that, and not letting me do that, but, sticking around while I kind of dive in and out of all of these different forms and genres, because my channel doesn't really have a ton of coherence as far as what types of books I read, because I read a little bit of everything. So I have found that that has definitely changed for me this year. And just in general, I just feel like I don't like I said earlier, I don't feel the pressure of having to read things or feeling like I should have read that already, especially when it comes to classics. I feel like I'm kind of letting that go. And I still like reading classics. I just don't force myself to read them anymore because the world says I should. I feel like I do this subconsciously, so it's not something I actively really strive for, though I do have to some extent given the state of the publishing industry and things like that. But I do think the diversity in my reading this year has been amazing. And again, that's mostly just because in past years I made a conscious effort to diversify my reading and diversify the regions of the world that my literature is coming from, the kinds of people that my literature is coming from, whether that be based on gender or race or sexuality or any number of factors. I feel like in years past I've made a very conscious effort of doing that, and this year I feel like it kind of came more naturally to me. And a lot of that's because I've already kind of discovered authors and outlets through which I can kind of find new books, new diverse books, but it's been really lovely to kind of see that become a natural part of my reading, which was always my goal, and I feel like should be kind of everyone's goal, is to just read in order to know the world better. And to do that, you have to read from perspectives that you might not normally get in your everyday life. So those are kind of the two main shifts that I've seen in my reading life this year, and I just wanted to talk about them a little bit and reflect as we're getting close to the end of 2016. Have your reading taste changed at all this year, or has the way you pick books or choose books changed? Do let me know in the comments, and I will see you all soon with another video. Bye.